Welcome to Pauper to the People, episode 136. With me today is not our usual crew. We have Joshua Clater
Hello.
and Samuel Calkin.
Hello, guys.
All right, so the lineup's a little bit different tonight. Nate and Peter couldn't make the show. Nate's a little sick, and Peter's got family over. But decided to have a show anyway because the pretty big announcement that we're not getting Pauper Daily events back. But first off, I want to just introduce you to the guys who are co-hosting with me today. Joshua, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, obviously, my name is Joshua Clater, and for the past 7 years, I have been the editor / content / community manager of PureMTGO.com. I am an active streamer and an active person that contributes to YouTube for Magic the Gathering Online, and an active writer, having been a Magic writer since 1999. I've appeared on The Dojo, Star City, several magazines when they were actual real thing. I guess those are the important parts.
All right. How do you deal with Pauper?
How am I dealing with Pauper?
Well, I mean, how do you? What do you think about Pauper in general?
Pauper is a fantastic format that, before it was supported by WotC, I kind of ignored, but under the prompting and persistence of Alex Allman, I actually got into. And when I started playing the format, it was a revelation. It was fun. It was neat to do things with cards that you normally don't see a lot of play with in Standard or Block or any other format. Actually, when I got into Pauper, they had just banned cranial plating, and I couldn't understand why they did that. And I was just like, whatever, that's silly. There's a ton of artifact removal.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Pauper's great. It's currently my favorite format to play on Magic the Gathering Online. It's currently my favorite format to write about, so...
Alright, that's cool. Okay, brings us to Samuel. How are you doing, Samuel?
I'm fine, thank you. This is quite a new experience for me. I've never been on a live recording of a podcast before. Feeling a little bit stage frights and stuff like that. About me in general, I'm running the Pauper Revolution page with XMimX and Misha. And we're trying to stimulate Pauper in Poland, organize some events, get the relevant Pauper news closer to the people of Poland, as they are not really internet savvy, and it's unexpectedly hard for them to really find them on the web. So getting them closer and posting them on forums and Pauper Revolution page has provided them with relevant Pauper news. What else? Well, I've been organizing Pauper live events even long before I knew MTGO existed. So I'm like a Pauper hipster. So we tried Pauper in many forms, like Pauper Extended and Pauper Vintage, even with what was that, cranial plating and hymn to Torah legal. and that was very crazy format.
Yeah. So if you guys don't already like Pauper Revolution, they're an amazing, they're a fan page for Pauper basically, and these guys play Pauper, in paper and support all of us who write for Pauper, including MTGO Strat and Pure MTGO and all the websites. So Pauper Revolution gives us a shout outs all the time, and we love you guys.
Thanks, we love you even more.
So that brings us basically to our topic, and basically the main topic tonight is daily events for Pauper just not coming back.
Oh, I'm so sad about that.
Yep.
This is like a blow to the kidney. Like we've been struck with a very heavy hammer to our kidneys.
Yep.
Because we've been waiting so long for them to return. This is like the bread of Pauper for us.
Yeah. Let's say for the past at least a year. I don't remember exactly when Premier events came back or got chopped off the schedule for Pauper, but for the past year at least, daily events have been the highest level of Pauper competitive play. And well, now we get a sort of like a double-edged sword, because we have daily events are gone, but we now have Premier events. What do you guys think about that?
I'm not a huge fan of the Premier events, but I'm a different kind of Magic the Gathering online player than their target markets. I'm a single father on the weekends whenever I have my son, so I put other priorities in place instead of playing Magic. So it's a bit of an inconvenience to me. Another thing that I don't like about it is they increased the minimum players for these Premier events, right? They went from a 32 to a 64.
Yep, used to be 32, now it's 64. Well, I think it might have used to been 33. Yeah, whatever. 32 or 33 used to be the minimum, and now it's up to 64. It's the minimum for Premier events.
And I was talking to Alex about this earlier because, you know, I didn't have a knee-jerk reaction when daily events went down. I didn't have a knee-jerk reaction when the card prices started to go down, but this actually produced a knee-jerk reaction from me. I don't like conspiracy theories. I'm not a huge fan of them. But I feel like with WotC wanting to match up Moto with what they do on paper, that it is very possible that they're going to see that these new Pauper Premier events just don't fire, and then Pauper gets taken off the schedule altogether.
Yep.
I personally can't see how Pauper makes WotC money. I mean, yeah, packs get sold, but I see Pauper being more of a secondary market moneymaker than it does for WotC. So if they're not making a profit, why offer it? And if they continue to offer events that aren't firing, then why continue to offer them? So I just see this going down to a slippery slope to where all we're back to having for Pauper is player-run events. And player-run events are great. They serve a great purpose in the community. But I think Pauper players, the community as a whole, they deserve better than that.
Yep. It's kind of sad, right? We do. I'm not gonna say that. I'm effectively infinite on Magic Online by playing Pauper events, by playing Pauper events. So, but I don't think I'm the target audience for WotC either, though. I mean, and it took me. I still have $200 roughly invested in Magic Online to get me started. You know, that was what I learned with, and Pauper, sort of transformed me into a good player, and now I'm starting to dive into other formats as well as Pauper, including block constructed and standard, and so I think Pauper's kind of like the gateway drug, and I don't know that they're aware of that. Is that a lot of people get their start in Pauper, and I think I read from who was it? Avignon on MTGO Academy. He said that he basically built up his MTGO collection by playing Pauper. He's the guy who came up with the Tron list that is so active in Pauper right now. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people get their start in Pauper, and a lot of Magic enthusiasts get their start in Pauper.
the cheap entry point is just it's appealing when you can buy two decks for $20. Let's just say Affinity and Eye Candy, and be competitive. That's fantastic. And if you're making prizes off that, then you're building your collection. You're putting more tickets back into WotC, and that's making them happy because you're eventually going to jump into the other formats and give draft a try and give you know, standard or block a try.
Yeah. I say I'm effectively infinite because every once in a while I'll go on a drafting spree and I'll just dump all the tickets I've ever made from drafting. So, and then I'm back to square one. I'm like, oh man, I guess I gotta play in some Pauper daily events again and make some cash back so I can draft some more. But
Did you draft some Mercadian masks?
oh well, they're not here yet, unfortunately.
They'll be here on the 18th. I am counting down the days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I love mass block drafting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you like, I've got an
I've
echo
got an
going
echo
on.
going on.
We're talking about Mercadian masks.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Mercadian Mass Draft. Sorry, folks, I paused the recording because we had a audio issue, and we were talking about Mercadian masks, which are awesome.
So they will be here on 18th, right?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you think those Mercadian masks will affect Pauper prices?
Well, everything goes down, right? If you were paying attention to Tempest prices, Tempest Strongholds, Exodus prices, a lot of your Pauper staples like Diabolic Edict and Rolling Thunder went down by, down to like 25% of their original.
Like I checked
value.
Edict today, and Edict was down to $1.
Yeah, I was checking it as well.
Days should definitely. That's been a little more of a vintage speculation,
Yeah,
but
that's-
Days should lower from $15.
You have Days, Accumulated Knowledge, Gush. You have a lot of good Pauper cards in
Yeah.
Mercadian Mask. So yeah, Snuff Out, another one, another $1 card. Spider Silk Armor. Yeah.
Ancestral Mask.
Oh yeah, there is Ancestral Mask.
Ancestral masks? Oh my goodness.
Brain-
This is a great moment to buy them then.
Yeah, Brainstorm. So hey, there you go. a lot of good Pauper cards in this. Oh, Flame Rift too. That's in here. $7 card, Flame Rift. For all you burn folks out there. Yeah. So what's good about this change is we do get to keep the 8-mans, and that was one of the things that I was pushing for prior to this announcement or prior to the daily events going away, was that we got 8-mans and Pauper in general. Come to find out, they're unsustainable as the only format. However, they are extremely convenient if you want to play and a daily event is just not available for you that day. Right. So I do still play in 8-mans, even though they are just basically a slow ticket shredder.
What do you think about their randomness? Those decks.
I like it. I like that occasionally I'll run into the random deck that's just going to blow me out, like Freed from the Real. I run into a deck like that, I'm like, sweet. I'm actually pretty glad that I ran into something different. And you don't get that with daily events, and you're especially not going to get that with premier events. So
Could we
yeah,
pause for a moment?
yeah, sure. So yeah, I do like the convenience of 8-mans. Being able to pick a time whenever I want to play. However, it is basically just a slow ticket shredder. You cannot actually make a profit off of 8-mans. Even the best of players is going to take. Oh man, there's a website, and I'll link it in the show notes. It's called magicev.com, and we'll put the link in the show notes anyway in case you can't remember that. But it'll show you 8-man events, constructed case based on current prize payout, what kind of a win percentage you'd need to actually make a profit. And according to this site, you have at a 55% win percentage, you do not make a profit in 8-mans. Let that sink in for a minute there.
Ow.
Yeah, you need a 57% win percentage to make a profit in 8-mans.
That's harsh.
Yep. So we've got I'm gonna put that right here. You guys can check that out. Plug in the calculators and everything. And it shows you all the events too that are currently offered on Magic Online. I don't know how that will change with Premier events, but it also keeps track of booster prices if you're just gonna sell it to bots and whatever. So yeah, there you go.
What is the current win percentage of best Modo grinders?
Oh, best Moto grinders? I think I saw an interview somewhere, Badu Tinha, who's a Brazilian grinder.
Yeah.
I think he said he had something like a 60% win percentage. 60 to 65% was what he estimated. I can't remember where I read that, though. If anybody knows where I read that, post it in the comments. Or email me, or contact me on Twitter. But yeah, it's like the best grinders, like the guys who actually make a living off of this, are doing 60 to 65% win percentages. And they're not, they can't actually make money off of 8-mans if that's the case.
Well, those guys won't be happy about dailies not returning.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys like Barutinha and whatever are playing other daily events, which are coming back. But I'm more concerned with the fact that the format that I love is not getting the daily events back, and that's going to make it extremely hard for me to continue to play Moto for free, basically. Which I like. Anyway.
I don't want to sound like I'm going to go off on a tangent, because I've already went off on my tangent on Twitter.
Yeah.
I believe in WotC. I really do. I believed that they were making the best choice for the program when they took daily events offline. I believed that they needed to change some numbers around. I believe that they were going to bring dailies back, and they weren't going to mess with the prize structure too much. Enough to where I was convincing my friends to not sell their accounts, to not panic. And the last Worth announcement where he said daily events were going to come back, prices rebounded. And this announcement I know it wasn't a personal attack on Joshua Claytor. Just because in WotC's eyes, what Joshua Claytor does is very small compared to what someone like Worth does or Mike Turian does. I mean, the 4 or 5 people that I saved from quitting isn't going to make a dent in their profit margins. I feel kind of silly even for believing so much in the company that everything was going to be close to normal. I mean, I love the fact that standard daily events are the same day every day now. I can work that into my daily schedule around my exercise or around my cooking. I love that everything's uniform. I just think that in their effort to make MTGO match Pauper, they either need to bite the bullet and sanction Pauper and Pauper, and they could just as easily use the Pauper ban list and the Pauper rules on MTGO to make Pauper match up. Yeah, it's going to be confusing for a little bit because the newer players in Pauper will be like, oh man, why can't I hand the Torok? And we'll be like, well, because we're playing a Moto format in Pauper. But I don't feel safe about the long-term health of the formats.
Yeah, it's definitely in a turmoil, and we weren't even going to record Pauper to the people tonight, but because of the other co-hosts, but I really felt like this was important enough that for the health of the format that we really needed to get something out saying, hey, look guys, this is the way that 2 of the premier Pauper heads of the community feel about this. We're not okay with this. This is we need events.
Yes, those events are what keeps our bloodstream. This is the blood of Pauper. Like when I want to show anyone what Pauper is, I just direct them to the Pauper Dailies page, and they can see those events and see that a Pauper community is growing. There are events firing off, and people are playing it, and there's a strong meta game. And now they will only see some 8-mans with pretty random, wacky constructs and Pauper Premier events, which are cool, but not as often. So it really saddens me. I would love to see Pauper in paper being sanctionized. That would be like a dream come true. We've been dreaming about this for 3 or 4 years now, since I really began to play Pauper at all. And that would make everything so much better than it is now.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, and how good are people going to feel if they can, if they don't need to... A lot of the barrier of competitive Magic play really comes with a cost. I mean, straight up, the Mythic rares and the rares you have to play competitive sanctioned Magic that they want right now. You can't do that with commons. But that's where Pauper really comes in, is, it gives a gateway for all these people to start building up a collection, and because they can actually win with these common cards that are good. And, WotC doesn't design for Pauper whenever they build new sets. I think they throw us a bone every once in a while, like Nivik Cyclops or Grey Merchant, but they obviously, and they've said this before, that they don't design for Pauper. And I totally understand that, but you have to acknowledge that the format exists and that we love it. I mean, I was using it as a gateway because I couldn't afford standard cards. I can now, but Pauper is still my favorite format. I would still play if they had a sanctioned paper event somewhere, like a Grand Prix or something, then I would totally go out and buy the real life cards to build my Delver deck and play in a real life Grand Prix.
I actually made a mention in one of my last issues of Accumulated Knowledge of a Pauper Pro Tour, and players running around dealer booths looking for stuff like Obsidian Acolyte and Standard Bearer.
That's amazing. That's great.
That would be so awesome.
Well, we've already had in Poland 2 Pauper Nationals already. So we've had that situation. We had exactly this as you are describing right now. There were Pauper players in a location in our capital city, and there were Pauper trades everywhere. People were shouting for ancestral masks and corrupts. That was amazing, like being in a whole another universe where Pauper is sanctionized.
That's insane.
I mean, for a time, I was running weekend Pauper events at my local game store using the Moto ban list and the Moto rule list, and those were some of our most popular events because, we did have a bit of an overlap between people at my local store that played Pauper on Moto that would come and play their same Pauper decks in real life, and it brought actually a lot of new people into the game because we were running these free Pauper events on the weekends, and I was just giving away, like full decks for, the winners and stuff, and it didn't... I mean, it eventually helped get tournament attendance up for stuff like Friday Night Magic and our Tuesday night drafts and such, but it didn't have the staying power because, Saturday there was other things that I wanted to do, like PTQ or...
So you're saying that the interest was there, but you didn't have the tournament organizer there to make the event happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really need that dedicated community to pull that off.
Yeah. I mean, people know what Pauper is. They really do. And one of the examples that I have is I went to the Theros pre-release, and if you remember your timing, the Theros pre-release happens shortly after Cloudpost was banned. Cloudpost and Temporal Fissure were banned from Pauper. So I went to this Theros pre-release, and I was just talking with a couple guys, telling them who I was, what I did. I'm a Pauper enthusiast. I've been doing this for a while, and they're like, yeah, I used to play Pauper online, but then everybody started playing that Temporal Fissure deck, and it was just miserable. I was like, no, man, they banned it, and they're like, oh my god, really? I'm totally going back and playing Pauper online right now.
Yeah, that Fissure deck was misery.
It was miserable for everyone, and they banned it.
Yeah.
And this
It was
is
like a walk of shame for everyone. Like, you would have to walk between two rows of people hitting you with clubs.
yeah. No, so people were really excited about it, and this is what blows my mind about the daily events going away for Pauper is that WotC listened to us when we said, "Hey, this deck is oppressive. It needs to go," and they listened to us. They took it away. They banned it in all of its iterations. We still have the Simic, the Esper Mill Sage going on, and then like the Simic Land Enchant decks happening occasionally.
Yeah.
But those decks are far easier to interact with than the Cloud Post deck was. So WotC listened to us, right? They said, hey, you know what? We acknowledge you guys as a community, and this is what you guys want, so we're doing it. And then they take away the daily events. So it's really confusing.
I want to be as optimistic as Alex, and I know that I keep name dropping him, but he's someone that I talk to on a daily basis and someone that I respect a lot as one of Pure's former writers and as a writer for Star City now. He's pretty sure that we're going to get daily events back by March. And I want to be that optimistic. I can't see it. This is the first time that WotC has done something that has absolutely made me think the sky is falling.
Yeah, that's why
6th edition rules changes, whatever, adapt. The lack of mana burn, whatever, adapt. Everything that has previously killed Magic, that has gotten everyone up in arms about, I've just been like, whatever, I'm going to play with the new rules and just get used to it. But this isn't even the same game. I mean, a premier event's not the same as a daily. An 8-man event's not the same as a daily. I may have a 60% win percentage in 2-man queues, but that's only good for videos.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's excellent for videos. I say otherwise, I wouldn't be able to record videos for Pure when I do. But yeah, you're right. It's really. I mean, this is almost as bad as like when they took away the daily events the first time. It's like, ugh. It feels like it's that bad, and that's why we're having this forum here, and we need people to comment. We need people to retweet our tweets, bug Worth and bug Mike Turian. We want these events. Our format is not going to survive without these events.
I wouldn't say bug Mike and Worth. I would just say present well-reasoned, well-communicated things. If you do what I did on Twitter earlier today, I took a pretty angry tone with them, and that's the wrong way to go about it. Be respectful. present a good argument. Yeah. Don't be blah blah blah. I'm so and so, and this is why this needs to happen. Because people are just in general more receptive towards proper communication than they are towards random knee-jerk anger.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really what I'm trying to get at here is we're post in the comments how much you like Pauper. Retweet, get on Twitter and retweet the tweets. Alex Ullman wrote a nice letter, basically an open letter to Worth Wolford and Mike Turian that definitely retweet, let them know that, hey, this is how we feel as a community. So yeah, obviously no Pauper dailies is really the biggest downside of this daily event returning, or these daily events returning. We don't have Pauper dailies, but we do have the premier events. And Josh, you had something to say about premier events.
I feel terrible about Premier Events. I'm looking right now at the deck list from the Pauper Battle Royal that happened over the past weekend that Casting Commons held, and that I provided commentary for. And I'm seeing in these deck lists a lot of innovative lists. With a Premier event, I believe we're going to see a lot more of the dominant events or dominant decks. We're going to see a ton of mono blue, be it the aggro or the control deck. We're going to see a ton of mono black. And stuff like Obson's Oops All Spells deck, or Ronaldo Vren's four-color Tron deck, I see falling by the wayside because they have not great matchups against, the best decks in the formats. Eye Candy, which is a very fun deck, is going to be hurt because it's got bad matchups with mono blue and mono black. And without innovation, there's no growth. And if we're seeing the same deck list over and over and over again, it's going to be, hey, it's time to ban something else, but maybe there's not really a need for a ban right now. I mean, does Snap or Cloud of Fairies, I think, could go. But, I mean, the format has been at its healthiest point ever since I've been involved with doing Magic the Gathering online stuff as a career.
I agree.
Yep. Yeah, Premier events don't leave. I mean, it's cool to have Premier events, right? And we're by no means saying take away the Premier events, but there are certain decks that just don't function in Premier events. And then there's certain decks that don't function outside of daily events, right? Like this, Obson's one lane combo. It can get a 3-1. It can get there. It maybe even could get a 4-0 if it's lucky. But if it plays in a Premier event, it's not gonna happen, right? It's not gonna win. It's gonna run into Delver at some point and lose.
Yeah.
So, if I may,
yep.
Some time ago there was a Premier event which eHustle won with I think it was 134 players, about something like that. One of the last Premier events, and he won it with the BR Tortured Existence deck, and that was something really unexpected. But I don't think it would happen very often for a rogue deck to win a Premier event.
No. Have you ever played against eHustle when he's playing that deck?
Me, myself?
Yeah.
No, I never had the pleasure.
He draws like a god.
I have. He's a master.
He's very, very good with the deck, but he also draws very, very well.
He has struck a pact with the gods of MTGO.
Yeah. There's a couple of people like that.
If you play the deck as long as he has, you're gonna know the intricacies of it, and you're gonna know how to best play to your outs. And with his experience with the deck, he gets to play to his outs.
Yeah.
So,
don't get me wrong. I'm aware that he is very, very good with the deck, and he's a very good player in general, by all means. And every time when daily events were still happening, I'd watch replays of him playing his deck, and I'd learn something every time just by watching him play replays. I'm like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. That's sweet.
yeah.
So that's a sign of a guy who knows his deck so well that I know his exact deck list. I know what it should be able to do, and I still learn things by watching the replays. So shout out to him for winning the last. I think that was the last Pauper Premier event ever.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So
made me buy myself a copy of this deck.
Yeah.
When I entered MTGO, that was about the time I entered the MTGO. I bought BR Tortured Existence and Elves and I think Stompy, because they overlap with Elves so much.
Yeah. So the other thing that's really concerning here is that it was pretty obvious at the time that, before they took away daily events, that Pauper was second in popularity only at a standard. right? Pauper was firing with 100+ people every day in
Yeah.
the daily event they featured. Whereas your next highest events were usually modern, I think, which were firing between 60 and 80 people. So Pauper had a solid, 25% more people entering the event every single day than modern did. But they're taking away the Pauper daily events. So,
But Modern's also a PTQ format, and it mirrors their want for Moto to mirror face-to-face Magic.
yep.
And I'm not saying that Pauper has to be a PTQ format, though that would be ridiculous.
Oh
So
my
sweet.
god!
It would be fantastic.
Stop!
But-
You're making me dream.
Just
Even
the
more.
option for tournament organizers to sanction Pauper for Friday Night Magic.
Yeah, that would be
means
insane.
So much. Yeah,
That would be insane.
utterly amazing.
But it just goes to show, like, how come our priority isn't there, right? I really try not to turn this into a wine fest, but how come our priority isn't there whenever it's really obvious that people love the format? We wouldn't keep playing it if we didn't love the format. There are cheap standard decks available. There are cheap Theros block decks available. And yet Pauper is clearly just blowing them all out of the water. Not standard, obviously, but, modern Theros block and... yeah, it's firing way more frequently than those.
And Block. Why did they keep Block? Block's not a PTQ format anymore, is it? I mean, granted,
they had the Pro Tour in block last time, didn't they?
there's a Pro Tour. There's a Block Pro Tour.
Yeah, I think that's why they keep the block.
The Pro Tour formats are now standard to begin the season. Then I think Modern, then Full Set Block, then Standard to end the season.
Gotcha.
Whenever they go to 4, if I recall correctly. But there's no Block PTQ season. So Block matters for exactly 1 weekend.
Yeah.
Unless they change the qualifier seasons. But I think even the qualifier seasons are going to be Standard, Modern, Standard, and Limited.
I can see what's his name, Psychobabble, right now yelling at you through his through his headphones. No, block is awesome.
And Psychobabble does good work. And I have actually started a partnership with him to where I record videos for him for his articles, because while he's writing, his significant other, maybe wife, maybe girlfriend, I'm not entirely sure. I forget the I forgot the story, is in one room trying to sleep, and I believe there's a child in another room trying to sleep, so making videos while he's writing is pretty hard for him to do.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I have 3 kids, and like when I have to record videos at like midnight for my articles for you.
It's actually about 6 a.m. here.
Yeah.
And I'm
Thanks for coming on, Sam.
staying all night. And my significant other, my girlfriend, is sleeping in the other room, so I cannot be really loud. That's why I was asking you to check my mic volume.
Gotcha.
And I'm in the great position compared to you guys, because I have no children of my own right now yet.
Oh, children are awesome. I would highly suggest having 1 or 2.
They're pretty cool. I don't get to see my son as much as I'd like to, but the weekends that I get him are the most amazing weekends of the year. So
Yeah, Pauper to the people.
when you're ready, don't have one just because we say to have one, but make sure that everything's good. You've got a nice career, and
Well, I just think you need to experience life before you create life. So that's my motto.
That's very
Yeah,
wise.
I was 27 when my son was born, so I believe I had experienced as much as I was going to, and I was ready to move on
It's a good
and
moment.
experience something new.
I didn't have a choice, really. I kind of had my first kid when I was 21. So there's that. No, my kids were not intentional, but they were all amazing. It's a story for another day.
Pauper to the people, planning parenthood and talking about the dailies.
Yes, Planned Parenthood. Yeah, so getting back to what we're doing.
Yeah, Pauper, right.
Pauper, yeah. So Premier events are amazing for Pauper, though, because you really get to see what the good decks are, right? And with Premier events,
Right. And you'll get to see who the best players are because, just like in the Casting Commons tournaments, the players that had the most experience with their decks, they were the ones that were making the top eights.
yep.
And it's nice to see the skill involved in the format because it's not. You look at it and it's like, oh man, it's all commons. This is easy to pick up. It's not so easy to pick up.
Yeah.
I challenge anyone to pick up Obson's Oops All Spells deck and just start winning it cold.
Yeah.
That deck is hard to play.
And you sort of notice where the significant skill difference, too, in how many people are running Delver and how many people consistently place with Delver.
Right.
Right. Mezel is a longtime Delver player, Pauper grinder, and he, as far as I know, is the only person who wins with his variation of Delver. There are a few other times it shows up every once in a while that people copy his list and win with it, but he's like the only one who can actually really win with his list. Most of the people are playing the Days heavy version, or running Ponder Preordain, and Mezel just sticks with his Brainstorms as his only cantrip, along with expensive spells like Exclude. So, and that just shows you it's like, hey, this guy is actually the guy who knows his deck the best, that he can consistently win with that deck. Whereas people who are copying his deck are not winning, and that's pretty obvious.
I was one of those people. I definitely copied his deck and was like, yeah, this should be fairly easy to figure out, and then I sold it.
Yeah, there's so many complicated interactions with a lot of these decks that you can't just pick them up and win. And play mistakes are going to happen a lot, but it's pretty obvious whenever you win because you're good, and you win because, or whether you win because you're good or whether you win because your deck is good. Sometimes certain decks are really good against a meta, like Fissure was insane against anybody because the deck was so good that it just punished people for not killing it, basically. And even the bad players could win with it after turn 5 or 6.
Punishing board development.
Yes.
What's easier than that?
Nothing much, really. But since the bannings and everything, a lot of people went over to Delver and decided that they couldn't play that deck, and they moved over to other decks that they could play, like Affinity. And that's where you get a lot of innovation, though, is that people are hopping around decks trying to figure out which ones they can play happily. And with Premier events, you're not going to really have any room for the innovations, I don't think. You're not going to have any room for the temporal fissures to come back to show their ugly faces and make us ban something, because people are going to stick with the consistent decks. We're going to go back once again to Obson's one-land deck that it's very inconsistent, but it can actually cash out in a daily event. But if nobody's playing daily events, then nobody's innovating in a format, so the format will die.
There's plenty of room for innovation in Pauper because the card pool is gigantic. It's just with
and we still
the current state of things, there's just no, I guess, real incentive to innovate.
Yeah.
If you're good with your deck, you just keep playing your deck, and you keep cashing, and you keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
And then the innovation happens at the player run event level.
Yeah.
I really love the perilous research that was added to Affinity some time ago. That was like something strange and refreshing for a deck that was so well known.
Yeah, so well known, so well tuned, and somebody added perilous research to it. I don't know who it was, but that's awesome because that gives the deck a whole new angle of attacking.
Yeah.
It gives the deck so much reach against mono black because, they're attacking your hand and attacking your creatures, and if you get to refill, I mean, you're drawing 3 cards off of research and the wellspring or the other artifact that you sacrifice. I mean, they've went through all their resources to deal with your early wave. Now you have a second wave.
Yeah.
And you can respond to them killing your creatures. So 3 for 1. Hooray.
Yeah.
It's sweet. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is certainly room for innovation and metagaming in Pauper, and there will be in the premier events. But man, what kind of an incentive is there to take your brand new super Whammadine combo deck to a premier event if you have to spend 6 hours to get to top 8 or whatever? Is there really incentive to do that then? I don't know. I don't think there is. I think I just take Delver into a daily event, into the premier events, and hope that I get good pairings. And
Isn't
draw
it
well.
hard to train for a premier event? Is there you need to highly qualified players for that?
I'm not
Well,
sure.
the cost is 10 tickets, so you're not going to be getting the randoms that just. And I don't mean randoms as a
tournament
bad
practice.
thing. The people that want practice, so there's going to be more serious players in these.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep. So you get more serious players in premier events, and that's cool and everything. That's another sort of a downside to premier events only is a lot of people are just like, they want to take zombies into an event, right? Like, the zombies deck that I'm talking about, the one that uses like Jim Palm Polluter and Carnophages
Shepherd
and stuff.
Rocks.
Yeah.
Unearths.
That deck can 3-1 a daily. That's pretty reasonable that it can happen. I don't think it's happened yet, but it's reasonable that it can happen, right? And it's a really fun deck to play if you've never played it before. It's a blast. But I'm not going to take that into a premier event ever, not in the history of ever. So, but I will spend 6 tickets and enter a daily event with it because it's fun, and I might cash. There's a chance that I'll cash. There's precisely 0 chance that I cash with that deck in a premier event. I can't actually think of a time that I would.
Like for me, if I were to sit down for a premier event, there's only 3 decks I'm considering. I'm considering Mono Black, I'm considering Delver, and I'm considering Affinity. And that makes me sad because Eye Candy is one of my most favorite decks. Elf Combo is one of my most favorite decks.
Oh, I hate you.
I might take elves to a premier event. But I'm a dreamer,
There's a song, I think, what is it, John Lennon wrote it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm
premier
not the
events-
only one, right?
Yeah, you're not the only one. Well, you are the only one with Pauper, because I'm certainly not taking those elves into a premier event.
I might run into a lot of Delvers, so that's good.
Yeah.
But I might as well run into a lot of Mono Black, and that's horrible.
Yes. Hey, on the plus side for you, nobody's running Crypt Rats anymore.
But they are running Pestilence in sideboard.
Oh, that's only
Like-
me. I'm the only one who's running Pestilence.
You are the mean one.
I know. Pestilence is sweet. Okay. So, yeah, premier events. I think we said enough about premier events. Do you guys think so?
Yeah, I think we've covered all the bases.
All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and move towards closing out this episode. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Josh, how can we get in contact with you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Joshua Clater, or I have a Facebook page that is www.facebook.com Joshua Clater MTG. I tend to check my Twitter and my Facebook page the most, so and that's Clater ClayTor.
Liked. I think I liked you. There we go. I think. I don't know. There we go. Figured it out. Okay, Samuel?
Well, you can reach me mainly on my Facebook, because that's where I spend the most of my productive time. So visit Pauper Revolution page on Facebook. It's facebook.com/pauper.revolution. And I'll be sure to check my emails and reply to any comments. As you know, I'm fairly active on Pauper Revolution.
Yeah. I'm Chris. I'm one of the regular hosts of Pauper to the People. But these guys have been amazing for coming on and helping me out. Now, this is a time of need for Pauper, guys. Shout out. Give comments. Reply to us on Twitter. Retweet our tweets. We all love Pauper for the same reason. So, I think that's it. I'm Chris. You can contact me on Twitter at cweaver8518 or on MTGO. My username there is cweaver. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.